All right, everybody. Welcome to the Contextual Christian Church Bible Study, where today we're going to read Ezekiel chapter 23, verses 36 to 49. I'm going to pray it in. Everybody bow your heads. Father, thank you for getting us together for this Bible study. As in today, as we get into this Bible study, I pray that we're able to get this context and be able to re-explain it as best as possible, and maybe a new lesson, maybe a lesson that pertains to listening that we did. And in Jesus' name, amen. Did I come off silent that whole time?
Nope, you heard. I heard you.
Nope, I
Okay.
forgot to unmute myself.
Okay.
We all do it. So back to what I was getting into before you reminded me. I need to put my microphone on. So last time what we had gotten into, starting from verse 23, is we got into who was going to be surrounding these two cities, being Jerusalem and Samaria, because of them going so far into their idolatry and into the lovers, so to speak. The idols that their worship is what it was really getting at, and how they're going to be devoured. They're going to take away their jewels. They're going to take away everything, and not just everything they have currently, as in like everything they've built up, but even cutting off the very beauty and essence that they have, even in their own body, representative of the people and any positive about the people themselves there might be, let alone everything they've built up and all that. And so, what we continued to get on from there was about them being left naked and cutting off their own body parts, so to speak, that they're not even going to have that. And then they're going to be made fun of, laughed to scorn, basically so humiliated that they could never come back from it, metaphorically speaking. But then it pointed out to be had in derision, which means kept in that humiliation. And it contains a lot. So, in other words, it's going to be going a long while. It's not something that's going away anytime soon. And the last part that it brought up was that part about drinking of the cup. In other words, getting the same thing, the same plate as the sister Samaria. So we're talking about Jerusalem this whole time. And that's where we got the part about cutting off the body part, the beauty of them. And then lastly, we got the reason why. Because they forgot God and they cast God behind them, looking towards these other idolatries. Or as it put it metaphorically with a woman, the lewdness and the whoredoms. So now we're going to continue in verse 36. So I'll go ahead and switch it over. So our first person can read. And go ahead,
All right.
Thomas, when you're ready.
Okay. We're reading Ezekiel chapter 23, verses 36 to 40. Give it a couple seconds. The Lord said, moreover unto me, Son of man, wilt thou judge Aholah and let me. Charles is struggling on these now. I'm about to struggle. Hold on a second.
Yes, Ahola.
Yep. The second one though.
Well, give it a shot. Using the same name as the first, except there's only one difference.
I'm
You said what?
going to the Strongs
Oh, okay.
pronunciation. Oholiba.
Yep,
All right.
Aholiba.
Aholah, Aholah and Holiba. Okay. The Lord said, moreover unto
Now,
me,
before you
Son of
continue, do
man.
you remember what those are?
Mm, want to go ahead and put me in?
Remember, Ahola is Samaria. Aholiba is Jerusalem.
Jerusalem. Gotcha. Okay. The Lord said unto me, Son of man, wilt thou judge Aholah and Aholiba? Yea. Declare unto them their abominations, that they have committed adultery, and blood is in their hands. And with their idols have they committed adultery, and have also caused their sons, whom they bear unto me, to pass for them through the fire, to devour them. Moreover, this they have done unto me. They have defiled my sanctuary in the same day, and have profaned my Sabbath. For when they had slain their children to their idols, then they came the same day into my sanctuary to profane it. And lo, thus have they done in the midst of mine house. And furthermore, that ye have sent for men to come from far, unto whom a messenger was sent. And lo, they came for whom thou didst was what sorry, they came for whom thou didst wash thyself, painteth thyself eyes, and deckest thyself unto ornaments. 20 Okay, so in 36 we have God asking Ezekiel, look, are you gonna judge Aloha and Ahalo, Ohola and Oholabia?
Well, remember we talked about that a couple days ago. Is he actually asking a question?
No, no, no. It's rhetorical. Like, bro,
Yeah, exactly.
you're gonna do what I'm asking, right? So, are you gonna really judge Ahola and Ahola? I can't even say those words. I'm gonna stop trying. Yay. And
Think of it this way: a whole lot and a whole lot of ba. Hola, hola ba.
I like that. Ahola and Ahola. So, are you gonna judge Ahola and Ahola and declare to them
But don't
their
say the duh
abomination?
part. That was just to help you. Like it's a hola ba, not a hola de ba. I'm just saying that's to help you with the enunciation.
The part.
A
What do you mean?
hola and a hola ba.
I don't recall saying the
You said you copied what I said. I said for the second one,
Ahola.
a hola de ba.
Oholaba, Oholaba, bro.
Yeah, there you go. A hola ba.
Right now it's
Exactly.
not that. Ohola, Oholaba.
There you go.
So, and in the midst declaring unto them their abominations. Then we got a continuation going at 37. Let me read this really quick. That they
Mm-hmm.
have committed adultery, and blood is in their hands. And with their idols have they committed adultery, and have also caused their sons, whom they bear unto me, to pass for them through the fire, to devour them. So, declaring unto them regarding to their abominations and all the adultery that they're committing, and by that, all the blood that's on their hands. And then we have them uh, committing adultery to other idols and stuff like that. Hold on 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So then they have them committing adultery to other idols, and have also caused. And then on top of that, not only are they doing it, but they're causing their sons to do it as well. And then it speaks on how they have them passing through fire and pretty much killing them for the other idols, which is insane. And then in 38, moreover, remember this, moreover, this they have done unto me. They have defiled my sanctuary in the same day and have profaned my Sabbath. So, let me go and look up a word real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A primitive root to properly bore, that is, to wound, to dissolve, figuratively. The break. Okay. So God is saying they had the audacity, or within the same day, they go to my sanctuary and they just break stuff. They don't care. They're they're ruining whatever was there.
Huh?
All within all within the
No.
same day.
Try again.
To, okay, so they go there and uh, defile his sanctuary.
Yep.
What'd you say?
Yeah, defiled. Yeah. You got to find
Okay,
a word that a 5-year-old would understand with defiled. Break
okay.
is not defiled. If my woman is being defiled, does that mean that somebody broke her wrist?
No, you're right. Okay, so then I will use would they understand like spoil?
Yeah, spoil, well, yeah, not just not spoiled. Spoil would work, but
Okay.
not as good as some other ones.
What do you think
Personally,
then?
instead of defile or spoil, I would say disrespect, dishonor.
Got you. So not
One of
only
those.
are they doing all these extra, all doing all this stuff, but they have the audacity within the same day to go to my sanctuary and disrespect it, dishonor it by doing
I'm
all
trying
this
to find
other.
out where you said why does he keep saying same day?
What's up?
Where does it say they did it in the same day?
Let me go back to the passage. 38 in the same
There you
day.
go. There you go. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. I was trying to find out. I was like, okay.
All right, so they go there and they do that, and
Now, why would
God,
it matter to point out that they're doing it in the same day as the Sabbath?
it just let me think of my words before I just say anything. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I look at it as just the level of disrespect is like on a whole nother altitude, bro. Just disrespect after disrespect, man. No type of
But how does the pointing
care
out
for their
the
sins.
okay? But
What's
how
up?
does that impact that? What is pointing out in the same day? What does that do? The overall you're correct, but what is it? How does it make that happen?
Well, we have this day being the Sabbath as well. So a day of like rest and all that. They're doing all this.
Not just a day of rest. You're on the right track. There's two possible reasons to point that out. One of them you're on the right track for, but it's not just a day of rest. What are you supposed to do on that day of rest?
Worship.
Yeah, you're supposed to focus on God.
Yeah.
That whole day of rest is to rest from your labor, your regular work, so that you can focus on God and get some rest from the labor. So you're getting rest spiritually and physically. So of all days, it brings up you're doing it on the Sabbath. You're defiling it on the day that's supposed to be outlandishly disrespectful. You are right, but that's one of the two reasons why it could be bringing up the time frame. Charles, do you know the other reason why it may be bringing that up?
No, I thought that might be the only one.
No, there's another. Thomas, can you think of
That
the
I
other?
can think of.
All right. So the other possible reason is that he's pointing out that you're not even giving it a break. You're just going so much into sin that you're not even taking a break to stop. There was a young lady, an adult film actress, who got with 1,000 dudes in 24 hours. It could be pointing out that same concept. You're delving so much so into the sin, you're not even giving yourself a chance to breathe, to pause, to stop, just going all in. That in the same 24 hours, you did all of this. So that's the other possibility. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no break.
Exactly. All gas, no brakes.
Yeah, but I was reading 39 as well while you were talking, and I was just like, man, that's pretty wild. So
Mm-hmm.
they had the audacity to sacrifice their children to other to idols, but not just anywhere, in the sanctuary, in God's house, which is
Mm-hmm.
wild. And then we got 40, and I'm read that, and furthermore, that ye have sent for men to come from far, unto whom a messenger was sent. And lo, they came, for whom thou didst wash thyself, paintest thyself, thy eyes, I keep saying thyself, and deckest thyself with ornaments. So they send out for somebody by sending somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And the person returns, and
Well, not just send from somebody. That's not what that's saying.
hold on, furthermore, that ye have sent for men, sorry, it's plural, to come from far, unto
Yeah.
whom unto whom a messenger was sent. Okay, so we got they're sending out for men where they sent a messenger for to do such.
Nope. You missed the main important part.
I was putting the pieces together.
No, you're emphasizing it.
And furthermore, let me read it one more time slowly.
Mm-hmm.
And furthermore, that ye have sent forth men to come from far, unto
Mm-hmm.
whom a messenger was sent.
Think about that for a moment. Why would a messenger matter?
Well, they wouldn't know they were trying to get these men to come over. They would never know, like how, because they didn't have communication like we do. So they have to
No,
send
no,
out
no,
a
no, no.
message
My thing is, why not just go walk over to him? How does the messenger come in handy?
because the men are far, so that he have to travel
There you
to get
go.
there.
That's the main focus. You're sending to men that they're not even close by. Now remember, are we talking about actual women here?
No,
Exactly. Who are we talking about?
so Allah and Halabia is Jerusalem, and I believe you said it was Syria,
Samaria.
Samaria. Yeah.
All right. So Jerusalem and Samaria, then what would the men represent?
Um, you talking about the princes?
We just said that the women are not women, right? Why would the men be men?
Oh, so I don't know. Go ahead. I don't want to guess.
Well, instead of giving up, reread. I'm gonna tell you guys 1,000 times. Reread your section. The answer's in
Okay.
it.
Okay.
What have they been
All
called out for in your section as a whole?
right, I'm gonna read.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there a good place to start?
From the beginning.
Okay. The Lord said moreover unto me, Son of man, wilt thou judge Eloah and Elabia, yea, declare unto them their abominations, that they have committed adultery, and blood is in their hands, and with their idols have they committed adultery, and have also caused their sons,
So what is the adultery?
like all like the what's it called, sleeping around, doing all this extra they shouldn't be doing.
Thomas. I mean in reference to the verse.
Oh, go ahead, bro. You got it.
Well, don't give up. All right, Thomas, you gotta stop doing that. I don't, stop giving up when you haven't tried. Look at 37 again. They have committed adultery, and blood is in their hands. And with their hands, idols, and with their idols have they committed adultery.
Oh, my bad. I should have seen this. Regarding to like
You didn't even try. You just gave up with the moment you made a mistake. Got to stop that.
tired, dude. Um, adultery in
So,
regards
so
to
what are we talking about as a whole here?
the other areas, the other the what's it called, Aloha, Jerusalem and Samaria, sleeping around other areas.
No. What did we? Okay, Thomas, think about what I just said. What are we talking about overall here? What is the
So
adultery?
right now, so right now in this section, we have a whole lot of wrong going on in regards to other
What is
idols
it
and stuff like that.
overall? Yeah, idols. There you
Yeah,
go. And we know the women represent the Jerusalem and Samaria. So then what would the
the
men represent?
the idols.
Exactly, the idols of other nations. However, we're not just talking about other nations in general, right?
No, it can
Oh,
also be other things
no, no,
that they
no, no, no.
idolize.
No, that's verse 40. Remember, we're explaining verse 40, Thomas. We just said, what do the men represent?
Idols.
Idols of other nations. So we're not just talking about other nations in general. We got more specific than that, right? What other nations? What idols of or idols of other nations? Idols of what nations? Thomas?
Ah, sorry, I was reading. So we got them sending for men from afar,
Yeah. And the men represent what?
idols
Not just
from other
idols
nations.
from other nations. And so these idols from other nations, what are they described as in 40?
Men, hold on one second. Let me read this one too.
No, 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 no. We said that the men is the idols of other nations. What is the other description there in 40?
I'm reading right now from whom thou
I need you to
readest.
read out loud. I already told you that.
Yep. So it says, and furthermore, that that ye have sent for men to come from far, unto whom a
Okay.
messenger was. Okay.
No, 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 no. That was good enough. So what's the other portion talked about of this idols of other nations? You just read it out loud.
It just says men to come from afar.
Yeah, from far. They're not close, Thomas. They're
Yeah,
far away.
I said that earlier.
No, no, you kept on saying the men. You kept on going into about the men. Said, yeah, we know the men are the idols of other nations. Why does that matter that it's pointing out that these are idols from nations that are far away? What is the importance of bringing that up? How would that matter?
Because now they're just bringing in anybody. Sounds like it.
No. If they were just bringing anybody, then you didn't have to go far away, did you?
You right.
Let me give Charles a chance. Charles, why does it matter that it's pointing out that they're men from afar, or in other words, idols from other nations that are far away?
Are you talking in referencing they're just working too hard to dive into this idolatry, or they're reaching? What's the other way I wanted to say it? There was another way I wanted to say it. Man, I just lost it. Give me 5 seconds. I just had it.
Mm-hmm.
It was going too far, and it was something else I had. Man.
Not going too far.
It was something else I had that I just lost. Go ahead. Ah, man, I
All right,
wish I said that first.
Charles, if you have to go to Vegas and you're in Arizona, is that an easy trip?
No.
Depends on what's going on. If you're truck driving, it's pretty easy, right? But
Right.
now let's take it in context with this. We're talking about idolatry. Do you need to go all the way to Vegas to find idols around you?
No.
So if you go all the way to Vegas from Arizona to be able to get some idols to worship, what does that show about you?
What it shows is I'm willing to go far and wide just to dive into more idolatry.
Yeah, you're going above and beyond to be able to do that, right? That's why it
that
matters that it's pointing out far.
that's what I was trying to remember. That's what I had in my head. Ah,
So,
keep going.
Thomas, when it points out of the far, the reason that matters is because they're going out of their way to be able to do it. The amount of effort they're going into to be able to do that sin. You see what I'm saying? You have to send messengers to be able to get a hold of these other nations, to be able to get involved in their sin. I'll give you a perfect example of what this is showing. Let's say you lived in Oklahoma and they made strip clubs illegal. Can't do it, illegal, doesn't exist. There's no business for it. And the cops crack down. You can't even find off the books ones. You claim you're a Christian, but you not only want to do that, you take a flight to Vegas so that you can go to a strip club. That's how far out of the way you had to go to do it. You had to fly hundreds of miles. Actually, I think it's over 1,000 miles to be able to get to strip club. Does that make sense, Thomas?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Go ahead and continue.
Okay, so we got them going out of their way for these other men. And then it says, unto whom a messenger was sent, and lo, they came for whom thou didst wash thyself, paintest thy eyes, and deckest thyself with ornaments. So the messenger was sent, and then we have, it sounds like them coming,
Yep,
and
they
then
came
it
through.
says, they came through, and then it says, hold on, for whom thou didst wash thyself, paintest thy eyes, and deckest thyself with ornaments. So are they dressing up for these guys that came through?
Yep.
Oh wow, they want to look good, but it's not being literal. I don't think.
Oh, of course not. How could it be
Okay,
literal?
right.
That was a legitimate question. How could it be literal?
I wasn't thinking that it was literal. I was just saying
Oh,
that.
you said I don't think, like you weren't sure.
Uh,
My question was as more to say, why would you be unsure of that being literal?
no,
There's no way that can be literal in the context.
yeah. Speaking of Jerusalem and the other one.
Yeah. That's why it's so important when you give the explanation, you messed up again. You shouldn't have said men, because by saying men, you didn't explain it, you reread it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What you should have said, as a little heads up, is that So Jerusalem and Samaria are sending out flyers, sending out messages to religions and idols of other nations. And we're not even talking about just the ones that are right next to them. We're talking about nations and religions that are far away. They're going out of the way to do this. And then when they get a hold for these religions and idolatry to be available to them, now they want to wash themselves. Now they want to dress themselves up. Now they want to put on, and by the way, on a separate note, this goes to show mascara, people putting stuff on their eyes, that didn't start with gay people in America. That all the way back here to Jerusalem. The concept is so well known, he could use it to explain something. They paint their eyes and deck themselves with ornaments, jewelry, and what have you. So you're making yourself as appealing to that idolatry as possible. That's what he's bringing up here against Jerusalem and against Samaria. You see how when I explained that, I got all those parts and it was a lot simpler and quick?
Yeah, man, you did that.
Well, I'm not saying for that. I'm saying because when you gave your explanation, there were parts where you were rereading instead of explaining. And remember, a good way to explain is just to summarize what's being said in each portion. So in verse 40, how many things do you need to summarize?
Let's see. One, two. I would say four.
Okay, and what are those for?
The them trying to reach the idolatry from nations far away and sending out a messenger, and them getting there, them coming to them, and then them being all dressed up for them.
Yes, that's three. Yeah. Yeah. So the parts you could summarize that you need to summarize is the first part is that Jerusalem and Samaria, that they're trying to get a hold of some idols from faraway nations, not just the close ones. The second part is that they got a hold of them and they're coming through. And the third part is that they're trying to make that Jerusalem and Samaria are trying to make themselves as sensually or however appealing to these other idols as they possibly could. See how I just explained the entire verse with those three? That's all your explanation is. You're just retelling what's told, but not using the same words. So if you summarize it, it'll allow it to where you can explain it and not get tripped up so much on the individual words. Now, obviously, there are some things that you have to explain what the word means, right? Because it's not a word we use today or something like that. But that's a good way to think about it when it comes to explaining. When I do a summary for yesterday's Bible study, all I'm doing is taking the most important details, the parts that need to be said, and just summarizing them. When I'm doing an explanation of what I read, again, I'm taking the most important details and summarizing them. That's all explaining really is. When you really boil it down to, you're just doing a summary, just a shorter version. Now, there are times where you could explain the whole entire section by one or two things. In those cases, cool. But there are times where you need to explain different parts, like here. Okay, you're still doing a summary, just on more details. You see what I'm saying, Thomas?
Yes, sir.
All right, Charles, you get that too?
You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. So keep that in mind when you guys go to explain. It maybe it'll help you out. Think of it less as you're explaining in great detail and more as you're summarizing each verse. What are the and that basically to be said, what are the most important details? How do I summarize it? That's it. All right. Now then, does anybody have any comments or questions as we go to the second section? Now would be the time to raise your hand. All right, then Charles, go ahead when you're ready. Don't forget to unmute.
I'll be reading Ezekiel chapter 23, verse 41 to 45. I'll give it a couple seconds. Verse 41. And sattest upon a stately bed, and a table prepared before it, whereupon thou hast set mine incense and mine oil. And a voice of a multitude being at ease was with her. And with the men of the common sort were brought Sabian. Is that Sabians? Sabai. Let me go to the phonetic.
Mm-hmm.
Because phonetic has SEB dash AW dash EE. So Sabayans, Sabai, the
No, no,
Sabayans.
wait. Try that again. What did you say? What did you just say it had?
Phonetic start out with SEB dash
Okay, so that's
A
Seb.
Seb and then AW
Uh-huh.
dash right and then EE
Seba. And then what?
EE dash EE.
Now remember, when we see the EE, that's the phonetic for a group of people, right?
It's been a while, but okay. Because
So
I
the
always
Sebai, it would just be the people. So in the English, we might see the Ians, we might see the ites. It's been a while since we've seen that, but that's basically what it
it's been
is.
a long while since we've seen the
Yeah.
Ians.
Yeah.
So I would say Sabaeans then.
There you go.
Sabaeans from the wilderness, which put bracelets upon their hands and beautiful crowns upon their heads. Then said I unto her that was old in adulteries, will they now commit whoredoms with her, and she with them? Yet they went in unto her, as they go in unto a woman that play the harlot. So so went they in unto Ohola and unto Oholiba, the lewd woman, and the righteous men. They shall judge them after the manner of adulteresses, and after the manner of women that shed blood, because they are adulteresses, and blood is in their hands. We go back to verse 41. So we start off, and saddest upon a stately bed. So just sitting, the saddest is part. You're sitting on a stately bed. Let me go to stately. Strong's definition. Irregular feminine, passive particle of H3513, weightiness, that is magnificence, wealth, carriage, all glorious. So you're sitting
Yep.
on this magnificent bed, this glorious bed, this rich bed, and a table prepared before
I
it.
hate to use a bad part, but it's a good example of it. In Triple X, when he first goes to sleep and there's that adult dancer.
That's already there. No, no, I'm actually
Yeah.
thinking about something. Oh, was I thinking about the same thing?
Yeah, where she's hanging on the pole of the bed. That bed would be a good example of this.
Oh man, and then preparing the table before it, so in front of it, whereupon thou hast set mine incense and my oil. Now that's interesting because when we last read about God's, the way God has his oil and his incense that need to be set up for God specifically, It was specific. You only had it set up in certain sanctuary type places. You didn't
Nope.
have, we need God's oils outside of the wall of Jerusalem. We need
Well, you
God's
weren't
oils
allowed to
in.
use them for them. It wasn't allowed.
We had very specific rules and very specific ways you were using God's oils in his incense. In other words, and now
Mhm.
you're putting it in the table before this luxurious bed.
Mhm.
Ouch. And a voice of a multitude being at ease was with her. And the her still, we're still talking about Jerusalem, Samaria, Holia and the Holiba being the her.
So imagine, in other words, God's incense that are and oils that are supposed to be used for worship of Him, hanging outside the bed on a table before two people are about to get intimate.
Yeah, this is extremely disrespectful.
Hmm.
Well, I'm adding on to that with that before they get intimate, a voice of a multitude being at ease with her.
Hmm.
It didn't give me a specific of the voice of a multitude, but the way it writes it though, being at ease. I
Remember, the
can't even
angels
get that
and
up.
God were described as a voice of a multitude and how they sounded.
So that could have been a strong possibility because I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, it's a powerful voice.
A powerful voice keeping Samaria and Jerusalem a whole lot and a holy by at ease. And with
Not
the
keeping
men
at ease. Where did it say keeping?
not keeping, sorry, being at ease was with her. It was already at ease. So being at ease with them.
Exactly.
I lost myself.
Now, if I say
Oh,
I'm at ease with you, does that mean you're at ease?
no, it just means you're. It's just you.
Hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't mean them. It just means this voice of multitude.
Exactly.
And with the men of the common sort were brought, I said it earlier, back to the phonetic. Sabaeans, there we go, Sabaeans,
Hmm.
from the wilderness. And with the men of common sort were brought. So it's bringing up men of common sort. So men of common sort. And when he says common sort, he's just talking about because we're talking about Jerusalem and Samaria going so far. They're the ones that's going far into the idolatry too. They're the ones
Hmm.
going into other idolatrous things. Now they're involved in the Sabians. Sabaeans. There we go. Now they're involving the Sabaeans. And this group is from the wilderness. I don't ever think we read about them in the past, but I can look into that later. Now, these Sabaeans, they put bracelets on their hand, beautiful crowns upon their head.
Wait. You
Now,
haven't explained the common sort part. What do you mean by a common sort? What does that mean?
oh, I thought I just explained it with them being just like the Jerusalem and Samaria, getting into other idolatry, diving into other
No.
gods, diving into all these other things.
Nope. Did it say that Jerusalem was common?
It didn't say
Did
they
we
were
ever
common. We talked
did
about
we
them
read that Samaria was common?
common. No,
So if they're not listed as common, but they're going into idolatry themselves too, can the common meet the other people of idolatry?
wouldn't that mean the like? Let's say if I like video games and
That's a
somebody yells
distinguisher.
me to, you said what?
That's a distinguisher. Men of the common sort.
Oh, so am I re-explaining it wrong? I thought when you
Yeah,
bring up men of when you bring up common sort, when you bring that up, there are two sides that have a common like they have the same thing in common.
I didn't say they were men in agreement. It said men of a common sort. What is a sort?
Uh,
What does
sort
it
to
mean to
that's just
sort something?
to organize something.
And when you're organizing, does everything get, is it all together?
Yes.
No, what?
After you've organized it.
When you organize your dishes, are your forks with your knives?
Oh, and that no, in that example, no. You separate everything from the
Yeah,
organization.
sorting is separating. Organizing is separating. Each thing has its spot. It's not combining. It wouldn't be sorted if it's combined. So sort means separation or organization. So the type of separation for organization is that these men are of the common sort. So they're the type that are common. That would mean that there's other kinds of men too, though, right?
The way you brought that up, you're saying there will be other kind of men, as in men that
Not
have been
how I brought it
separated.
up,
These
but what
kind
it
of men.
says.
Well, that's what I'm
Men
trying to understand
of the
is
common sort. Okay. Men of the common sort. What does a sort mean? It's a
that
distinction.
was the
It's a
separation.
separation. So what is the separation or distinction? Common. So
So it's a
with the
separate
men
group of
of the,
men.
yeah. So if these are the common men, then there would have to be other men that are not the common, right?
Right.
So in this day and age that we're reading about, who would be the uncommon men? Who are there less of?
Followers of God, actually,
Well,
of the one true God.
okay, that's not like okay. You're making this more difficult than it needs to be. Average Joes, Charles. Average Joes. These are not men of renown. These are not amazing men. These are common men. Kind you can find anywhere. They're not above average, just common.
Just okay, like you said, average Joes.
Yeah.
That's how it's using it. Okay. And with the men of common sort were brought say Sabians. So average Joes. The
Yeah.
men of average Joes were brought
So why would it point that
Sabians.
out? Why would that matter? Why would it matter that they're just average guys from the Sabians, or Sabians, Sabians?
Um, Let me think about it. They were brought, so
Shouldn't be that difficult. You're overthinking it. What is the situation, Charles?
well, the situation
Overall.
is Jerusalem and Samaria getting into other idolatry with other nations, other people.
Yeah. They're getting idolatry with other people. So then if the people are representing the other idols and the other idolatries, then why bring up that they're the men of the common sort?
Average Joes just joining in the idolatry, joining into representation of other
No,
gods,
Charles.
other
Charles,
things. What do you
you didn't think about what I just said. Do the men are we talking about literal men, Charles?
when you talk about average Joes? That's just a broad term for average people.
Okay, but are we talking about literal men? Is any of this literal?
Are we talking about like a group of people from the
No, Charles,
Sabians?
Charles. Oh my goodness. Are we talking about women here that are actually in a bed waiting for people to get with them?
I didn't say that earlier, so no.
No, no, I'm saying that for a reason. So the men are not, it's not literal men then. You see what I'm saying? I just said, right before you said that statement, what do the men represent? We talked about this in Thomas's section. They represent the idolatry of other nations. So then it goes in to point out in here that with the men of the common sort were brought Sebaites from the wilderness, which put bracelets on their hands. Well, if we were talking about literal men, then that would make sense that we're talking about actual people. But we're not talking about literal men, are we,
So we're
Charles?
talking about the idol. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So the idolatry from other nations, the idolatry from other people.
Yes. And then pointing out, now, why would it matter then to bring up that it's the common sort? That of the common sort. Why would that matter to bring that up?
Just need to remember. So men being the idolatry from other nations. Why bring up common sort? Didn't we already talk about the example you brought up of common sort being average Joes, or throw that away?
Yeah. No, that matters to that. That matters to that. That's highly important to the context. Hmm.
It sounds like with the men being the idolatry from other nations and of the common sort being the average Joes, anybody could be a part of this. That's the first thing that I'm thinking about. How just anybody is a part of this idolatry for the other nations, for the other gods. Any nation, any person from different nations, any average Joe is what I'm thinking about.
Huh?
Is joining up,
Okay, Charles, the men of the word the common sort means they're average Joes.
right?
That's a metaphor. We just said that. So it can't be literal. Why would it matter to point out that they're average Joes in relation to the idolatry of other nations?
I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't
All
have it
right.
at the moment.
The problem is that you're looking at it literally and you're mixing up literal and metaphorical. Got to be able to tell the difference. Let me give Thomas a chance before I give the answer. Thomas?
Uh, their common choice.
Yes. These idolatries are the common choice. They're not specialty. There's nothing real important about them. They're just the average ones that they worship. The reason that matters is, and pointing that out, is it means that they're not going to these other nations to get some fancy, some like think about like the Tibetan Buddhist monks. They're not going into the specialty mountains to go and get the wisdom of age. No, they're just they're just going after, just grabbing the idolatry of the common, the regular idols. They're just in the middle of the city where you don't got to do much.
The easiest one.
Yeah, just the easiest to get to. But not just the easiest. It's pointing out that they're just going after the common one. That's showing how it's giving a contrast is what it's doing. Because what did we read at the end of Thomas's section, Charles? What was that getting at in verse 40?
And furthermore, that ye have sent for men to come from afar, or come from far, unto whom a messenger was sent. Send in, oh yeah, that ye have sent for men, back to the metaphorical idolatry of other nations. You sent for that
Yeah,
to
but
come from
what did
far.
it, we just said what it meant earlier? What does it mean, generically speaking, Charles?
I lost it. I'm still stuck on 41, so I lost
All
40.
right, Thomas, do you remember? What did we say the point of 40 was?
Them
Don't forget.
going out of their way.
There you go. They're going out of their way to be able to get into this idolatry. But then in 42, when we see that, they didn't go out of their way to get the most fancy or to go into the specialties. They just got the common folk versions. So you went out of your way to commit idolatry with these nations that are far away. And then you don't even go as much effort to go to the specialty sects, just the average ones. You see what I'm saying?
How is
It's a
that a
contrast.
contrast?
Okay. If you were going to go and get the average idols, if you're just going to go to the average religion, why leave your area at all? You didn't need to go out of your way. You could have just been with the one that you had right near you.
To the one
Why
next
go
door.
out of your
Right.
way just to only go to the common one? Nothing special about it. And the reason that that contrast matters is because that shows a mentality. The perfect example of this is somebody who supposedly is a Christian and then becomes a Muslim. You went out of your way to another religion, but you went to one that was so simple, so average Joe. It wasn't even like something spectacular. It's like you were so wanting to get away from the one you had, but it wasn't about where you went to. It was just about getting away from where you're at. Do you see what I'm saying?
So, verse 40, you're going out of your way, going afar. Verse 42, you're going close, nearby, next door. Is that what you were trying to say in the
No.
contrast?
40, you're going out of your way, you're going far. 42, you don't care about the quality. You just don't want it to be the one you have.
40
I'll
was
give you an
quality, 42 wasn't.
no. 42 was about quality. 40 was about effort. You want to get away from what you have. That's 40. You want something different. 42 is you don't care how good they are. I'll give you a perfect example of this. All right. Somebody is married to a doctor. Woman married to a doctor. Gives her everything she wants, takes care of all her needs. Only thing he requires is you keep the house clean and it's peaceful when he comes home. Not loud and rambunctious. Just peaceful when he comes home. She feels like it's too much of a burden. So, and they're based in Orange County, California. So, what she does is she moves all the way to New York City to get a different vibe, a different feel, to find to start over, get a new life. And she ends up dating and marrying a guy who works at a grocery store in New York City. All she cared about was getting away from where she was from. She didn't give a dang about the quality of what she got with when she got there to her destination. Does that make it more simple to understand?
So, yeah, you put 40 and 42 together in that example. Getting the far, going to New York from Orange County, and then 42 with the quality, she got the grocery guy. Compared to the
Exactly. Instead of
doctor,
the doctor
instead of
who
the
gave her
doctor, you went
everything.
for,
Yeah,
yeah, you got the grocery boy.
exactly. That's
Now I'm getting
that's
it.
why that comparison matters because it shows the mentality of what she was looking for. She didn't want a better life. She just wanted. She didn't care if the life got better or
Well,
worse.
that mentality is dumb. That is
You're
incredibly
not
dumb.
wrong. You're not wrong. And then think about who we're talking about.
We're talking
We're
about
talking about
it.
Jerusalem and Samaria.
We're not talking about just anybody. These are people that had direct communication to God, all the rules and
Yeah, like, are
regulations
we
of what you
talking
needed
about
to follow.
intelligent people here? Nah, we're talking about retards. Let's be real. Think about it this way, and then you can keep going with your explanation in the 43. Think about what kind of person or people we're talking about. You had direct communication with God, and that's not even the biggest part. If God was a douche or if God was wicked, evil, if he was a hypocrite, I could understand you wanting to get away from him. At least the minimum you could enjoy life here. But we're talking about a God who gave you the world, protected you from all enemies, and let you not just survive, but helped you to gloriously succeed in life. Everything going good. And you didn't even have the distractions and the temptations we got today. I mean, think about it from this perspective. Knowing how much they slipped up and sinned back then, imagine exactly what they would do if they were alive today. We think the children of Israel fell away fast then. Just imagine how quickly they'd fall away today.
All they need is the internet,
That's it.
and it's over. You mean
Exactly.
to tell me there's more to this than Jerusalem?
Exactly. And then the flights and how everywhere's connected. Could you imagine how far into sin Jerusalem and the people of Jerusalem and Samaria would have gone from this time age if they were alive today with all we have? The jobs, the accessibility. Think about Sodom and Gomorrah, but more like a virus that's infecting everywhere they go. That's what they would be like based on how little they had to deal with. Think about it this way. Yes, they didn't have the comforts we have. They didn't have the air conditioning. They didn't have the TV. But, Thomas, can you miss something you don't know exists?
No.
Exactly. So it's not like they would have been missing the AC. They didn't know it existed. Airplanes and TV and all that. They didn't need that. If you didn't know it existed, you wouldn't need it. So, with that in mind, imagine how much sin they actually had to deal with. This is their day to day. You're on a farm or you build tents. You have all the women in town that people arrange these marriages for you. You don't even have to worry about who you're going to get with. And in a lot of cases, they were allowed to have more than one wife. Wasn't a smart idea. God even warned about it, but it was possible. Yet all the food you needed, and you had outside to go and do stuff that you could do to enjoy. The only real temptations you had were two of them. One, the other women and how they dressed and everything. But let's be real. Charles, if you were married, are you going to have a problem with trying to sleep with other women?
No.
Thomas, if you were married, you're going to have a problem with trying to sleep with other women.
Nope.
Okay. Then let's look at the other stuff. Okay, so you don't have that. Lying. Okay. In what position would you need to lie? If your life is at risk? Okay. Then let's look at idolatry. And your life is not at risk that much. If you're following God, your life ain't at risk at all. Idolatry. You're supposed to kick out or kill everybody that brings it in, that tries to do that. If you actually did that, would you have idolatry in the camp, Charles?
No.
Exactly. So when we think about it from our perspective, let's be real about this. In our perspective, I could only see us three specifically maybe struggle with one sin. Maybe. And that's reacting wrong in anger. But if we've been walking with God and we've had as much difference in our level in anger and management now Imagine if we had our desire and ability and we're there then. You don't even have as many people around. So if we're really thinking about it, Charles, Thomas, can you guys see yourself even committing sin on a daily basis if you were alive in Israel's time frame that we're reading about? Or further back? When they actually were right with God, I mean?
No,
No.
I can't see it.
Exactly. Let's think about it even today. Charles, if you were married, are you going to be watching porn? Or adult films, sorry.
No,
Thomas, are you going to be watching adult films if you're married?
No.
Okay, there goes lust out the window. That's no longer a problem. Charles, if you get with a godly woman who actually respects his word and works with you, doesn't fight with you, but discusses things, you're going to have a problem with anger?
no.
Thomas?
No.
Exactly. So the reason I bring that up and say that is because, yeah, we're not talking about intelligent people. We're talking about some of the most dumbest people in all of history to have as little of temptation as they actually had. They didn't have to deal with squat compared to us today. It ain't even close. As little temptation, and you go into idolatry? And not only go into it, you go out of your way to do so? Think about that for a minute. How stupid you got to be. So then, is it really a surprise, Charles, that they would go out of their way not to go somewhere else just to not give a dang about the quality that they get when they get there?
There we go. No.
There we go. We are talking about idiots. I mean, and I'll say this to too. In their case, people are that stupid today. Think about it this way: 14th Amendment says we are to be equal under the law. We can't treat people differently from the law. What the law is, that's what it is. Yet you got people that say that abortion is constitutional. Thomas, is abortion constitutional? Let's see if you know.
No.
And why not?
What does the Constitution have to do with abortion?
Oh, incorrect answer. So you don't know. Charles?
In reference to talking about the person in the belly, you're treating them unfairly by just taking their life.
Exactly. Homicide is illegal. It is illegal to kill somebody except in two instances. One, if it's non intentional, or two, if it's in self defense. Those are the only legal ways you could kill somebody. Either one, you didn't mean to, it happened and it was not in your control or desire, or two, you were defending your physical life. Well, a baby has a heartbeat at 3 weeks. Scientifically, life begins at conception. But even if you wanted to give it that, oh, well, it's still just a clump of cells, okay. At 3 weeks, there's a heartbeat. You can't say it's alive, it's still not alive after a heartbeat. We literally designate our time of death at the time the heartbeat stops when somebody doesn't have a pacemaker. So, at maximum, 3 weeks would be the longest. Maximum. So, then because the 14th Amendment says you cannot treat people differently under the law, what it is what it is, then abortion is unconstitutional and should not be legal anywhere. So how can people be so stupid to still say abortion is constitutional? Because they don't actually know what the Constitution says, and they make up what they consider to be life. They can't even tell you half the time, actually, I'd say 90% of the time, when they would consider something to be a life, whether it's at the birth canal, whether it's at the time where the baby can survive outside the womb. It's so completely convoluted. It's so confused in their mind because it's not based in reality, it's based in convenience. So, to give a little slack to the children of Israel that we're reading about here, people are still that stupid today. All right, go ahead and continue, Charles.
Next, verse 43. Then said I unto her that was old in adulteries, will they now commit whoredoms with her, and she with them? So God is just saying in there, are they really going to come together to commit the whoredoms? In other words, going into idolatry together? Are they really going to come together and get into this idolatry, worshiping the other gods, doing this and doing that? It's like God watching God. The way God is watching this and the way He's explaining it is like us people. Well, let's say we caught somebody cheating. Is she really going to cheat on her man with that dude? Is she really about to do this?
Yep.
That's an example
Not a
I'm thinking
legitimate
about.
question. Definitely a comment. Exactly. And notice how he said in there, then I said unto her that was old in adulteries. So the person that it's using a representative of talking to is somebody that's been in adultery for a long time. So this is like asking a prostitute who's been in the game for 40 years, is that young prostitute really going to sleep with 1,000 men in a 24-hour period? Is she really going to do that? That's basically the conversation they're having in this
Well,
metaphor.
what's funny is even though it's not a real question, it's rhetorical, there's still an answer. Yet they went in unto her as they go in unto a woman that played the harlot. So yeah,
Yeah.
yes, that's exactly what's gonna happen. So they went in unto Ohola, and unto Oholiba, the lewd woman.
Women.
So yes, women. Sorry, the lewd women. So yes, they are gonna come together. They are gonna come together in that shared idolatry of other gods. They are gonna come together in their whoredom.
You know what this sounds like in today's day and age, Charles? Coexist.
Oh, you talking about like with like the Muslims
Those
living next
bumper
door to the Christians,
stickers,
and
and it has all the different religions, their symbols in each letter,
is that
and
the
it
one where it
says
has a fish? It
coexist.
has the fish, the cross, and all that other stuff. You talking about that?
Yeah. Yes.
Ah,
That's exactly what's being shown here.
oh, because everybody coming together, but contextually and with the truth, no, everybody shouldn't be. That shouldn't even be a thing. That shouldn't even be an option.
It's an impossibility. How
Yeah.
can I coexist with you living in sin as if you're not going to tempt my children? And that's only if it's temptation. Think about the trans. That's indoctrination. And we're supposed to coexist? You can't leave your sin alone. You can't just do it at your house. I mean, if we're being realistic, men should not be allowed to get even surgeries to look like women, or vice versa. The only time a surgery should be allowed where a woman cut off her breast is if it's because of breast cancer, medical, life endangerment. That should be it. I appreciate the fact we've been seeing recently where some transgender folk, they're being honest. There is only two genders. But what do you think it shows the kid when the kid sees you looking somewhat like a female and you're a man and you sound like a man? What do you think that teaches the kid? Same thing in Vegas. I used to say that Vegas would be one of the best places you could raise a child because every sin is out in the open and you can tell them how wrong it is. But a kid isn't going to understand that. Not right away. You're going to have to pressure them into that, push it into that. It would be a lot better to be able to teach the kids about the sinful natures if you can show them from afar, if you can show them how it gets to that point. So though they're not surprised, but they're not enveloped in it as they are in Vegas. That's what it is. So how can we coexist when you are just doing your sin all out in the open? When you're just throwing it in our faces. That's what's going on here with these different religions. And notice something else too. You got all these different religions, all these different idolatries. All of that stemmed from the children of Israel not putting God first in all their ways. It wouldn't have gotten that far if it didn't start that way from the beginning. Think about how they were when they were coming into the land of Israel in the midst of the wilderness. And specifically,
Yeah,
pay attention as we go through the wilderness. We'll be listening to it the next couple days.
I was
Pay
about to say
attention to
that.
how many times the children of Israel complain instead of just asking God for something when he's been there the
I,
whole time. Go ahead,
yeah, I got
Charles.
one for I got one for that when we're done with the Bible study. I actually got something for that.
Yeah. All right. So now go ahead and continue.
The last one, and the righteous man, they shall judge them after the manner of
Adulteresses.
adulteresses, and after the manner of women that shed blood. So the righteous man is going to judge them after the well, just after it brought up the manner of adulteresses. In other words, them going to all these other idolatries and judging them off for all of that. And after the manner of women that shed blood, metaphorically, just them all coming together to get into this idolatry crap. But we have the reason because they are the ones that go to all these other idols and other gods, and because there's blood in their hands. And that's all I got for mine.
Good. Now, does anybody have any comments or questions as we go to the final section? Now would be the time to raise your hand. All right, then I'll go to the final section. Ezekiel chapter 23, verse 46 to 49, finishing out the chapter. Everybody a second. All right. For thus saith the Lord God, I will bring up a company upon them, and will give them to be removed and spoiled. And the company shall stone them with stones, and dispatch them with swords. For they shall slay their sons and their daughters, and burn up their houses with fire. Thus will I cause lewdness to cease out of the land, that all women may be taught not to do after your lewdness. And they shall recompense your lewdness upon you, and ye shall bear the sins of your idols, and ye shall know that I am the Lord God. All right. So Jerusalem, Samaria, and the people included, you're going to be a moral to the story for others. Do not do as they did. You're going to get the punishments. You're going to get the stones. You're going to get the swords. You're going to be killed off. And not just killed off like the initial people, but your generations after you cut off. And burn their houses with fire. Now, the houses being burnt with fire, that could be literal. That could also be a metaphor as towards the lake of fire. Both are possible in this context. But the point is, there's going to be a punishment for the sin. And everyone's going to be able to look to them as what not to do, to not live as they lived, to not do as they did. All right. Does anybody have any comments or questions before we pray it out? Now would be the time to raise your hand. All right, then I'll go ahead and pray us out. Everybody bow your heads. Father, thank you for this time you've given us to be able to read your word and understand more about Jerusalem and Samaria and just how far they were willing to go. And though, God, I pray we are grateful that we do have you, but also we understand what we were born in the time we were. Personally, I think it is because if we were alive at the time of Jerusalem, I think we could have been sinless ourselves, potentially, which would have defeated the purpose and the need of your son existing. So you have us where we are and when we are so that the purpose is not diluted or changed. So, God, we pray and give thanks for this, to be able to have the grace and to have these lessons. In your son's holy and precious name, Jesus Christ, Yeshua. Amen.
Amen.
Good prayer.
Definitely. All right. So we will start again with Thomas.
Oh, Charles first. I'm joking.
We will start
with
Charles.
Charles. All right.
I was gonna say with Charles, but I was like, no, let me keep the joke going. All right, go ahead.
Mine was Exodus 12:12. It's pretty much God having enough. So like, look, I'm about to take away your firstborn. Got something wrong with me. I didn't put all these plagues on y'all. Y'all still playing games? All right. This is blood now. Blood in water. But like, just not to push God. What I seen got from that is just like, don't have to push God to that point, man. Yeah, we may slip up, but don't continually sin or continue to slide, bro.
Yeah, don't live in it, you know.
Exactly. That's what I got from that.
All right. Charles?
Yeah, I got a bunch, but Thomas got the one he took he got that one. Remember when we did the Bible study in Exodus 4 and Moses was trying not to do the thing that God was like, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that, and Moses kept coming up with all these like but I can't do this. I'm not. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
properly
yeah.
speak. I can't. And then the Lord. Then it brought up how the anger of
Hey,
the Lord
finally
was
got
kindled.
pissed.
The guy was getting mad. Like, you're gonna do this. I don't care what you say. I don't care how you're trying to dodge this. You're good. You're the one that's going to lead the children of Israel. And he just kept coming up with stuff. Kept coming up with stuff. So that was one. And the one I was bringing up in the Bible study, Exodus chapter 16, verses 23 to 31, when the children of Israel literally disobeyed God's rule when Moses told them on the sixth day, while we're waiting, while you're getting the manna, you need to collect for 2 days. So that sixth day, you're collecting for that day and the next day, because the Sabbath is the next day. Don't collect anything. There's nothing left. What did they do on the Sabbath day? They went thinking they could collect something. There was nothing left. And God was like, see how they disobey me? And I'm like, oh, that's funny because we were talking about this in what either the last Bible study or the Bible study before that, how God talked about they even disobeyed me in the wilderness. But in my head, I'm like, I don't remember exactly all the things. Oh, here's one right
Oh,
here.
yeah, 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 yeah. I
Here's one
forgot
right
about
here,
that. Yeah.
literally. We literally talked about this days ago, and here it is. The children of Israel already disobeyed this, and that one's small. It was slight. I caught it because I'm sitting down actually paying attention to it and going along with it rather than like
Yeah,
multitasking when I'm listening to it. But I'm like, right there, God just called them out. You already disobeying me. I told you not to do nothing on the Sabbath day, on that seventh day. You did it anyway.
exactly. Exactly.
Oh, and the other thing is me forgetting that the stranger can't eat the Passover unless that stranger is circumcised, or they can't participate in the Lord's Passover unless the stranger is circumcised. I totally forgot. I thought the stranger couldn't participate in none of that stuff, but the stranger has to be circumcised to participate in that. That was it.
Exactly. And now, why would that matter that they're circumcised?
Isn't it in this? I forgot. He said it in the chapter. But I'll say it like this, in the sense of the stranger is showing that he's going to also do what the children of Israel do and following God's will and God's way.
Exactly. The circumcision is the covenant that's or agreement made that you will follow God.
Yeah.
That's where it's made. It's made in blood. And so, if a stranger gets circumcised, they've basically agreed to that covenant. That's what they're not basically, that's what they're doing. They're agreeing to that covenant. So they may not be Jewish by birth. Oh, there's an actual term for it. It's called a proselyte. Proselyte is a person who is not Jewish by birth, but has gotten circumcised, has agreed to be part of it and everything. Remember, I
Oh,
said
okay.
Caleb was the first proselyte that we got named.
I forgot that. I forgot the word parcelite, but Caleb, yeah, I remember him and his story. Him
Proselyte,
being the
not
strange.
proselyte.
Say it again.
Proselyte.
Proselyte with a PR.
Yeah, PRO. Proselyte.
Proselyte. Yeah, I remember Caleb being from another land. He wasn't from the children of Israel.
Yeah, he was from the Egyptians that came over with them when they left.
Hmm.
All right. And then I just thought of the cat from Fairy Tale. So I had two parts that were connected that I wanted to go through. Exodus chapter 7, verse 20 to 22, and Exodus 8:18. So for Exodus 7, 20 to 22, and Moses and Aaron did so, as the Lord commanded. And he lifted up the rod and smote the waters that were in the river, in the sight of Pharaoh, and in the sight of his servants. And all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood. And the fish that was in the river died, and the river stank. And the Egyptians could not drink the water of the river, and there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. And the magicians of Egypt did so with their enchantments. So the magicians were able to do that, which is crazy to think about. The magicians were able to change the river and all the waters to being made of blood. That stuck out to me because it shows, as we've said before, that there is a sort of power in these other religions. Don't deny the fact that they had these abilities. But, and this is why the other part came into mind, or came into it, 8:18. In verse 18 of chapter 8, and the magicians did so with their enchantments to bring forth lice, but they could not. So there were lice upon man and upon beast. So even though they were able to change the water to be blood, they themselves were not able to turn all the dust of the land into lice. And the reason that mattered is because two parts. One, as shown from the other section, it showed they have some abilities. But as shown from this section, those abilities do not exceed the abilities of God. And that's why that matters.
You know
You
what's
see what
funny
I'm
about
saying?
your you know what's funny about your verse?
Huh.
Literally the verse after. The magicians told the Pharaoh, this is the finger of God.
Yep. Yep.
It's almost like they're telling them, we give up. We
Yeah, exactly. We can't do it.
we can't win.
Yep. And that's why that stuck out to me from that was because of that. It's like, okay, yeah, we got some abilities, Pharaoh. We're pretty good ourselves. I mean, we're actually really good considering all the stuff that we were able to do. But this is our limitation. We can't do this. You might want to appease him. Now, a couple of honorable mentions was all the verses that say that God hardened Pharaoh's heart or that Pharaoh hardened his heart. There's a couple that say Pharaoh hardened his heart, but there's a few where it says God hardened his heart. It goes to show the difference between free will and destiny. Yes, there is a semblance of free will, an ability to think, an ability to make choices. But if God has a specific thing he needs done, he will make sure it gets done, even manipulating people or using people with wicked decision tactics to get the job done. That's what stuck out to me, those parts. All right. Now, does anybody else wants to add or say? All right. Then I'll go ahead and, well, before I close it out, I want to say one thing. How do you guys feel about like what hits with you guys, or what does it make you think about when you guys are hearing the other verses? Because I'm curious your guys' perspective before we close it out today. I'll probably just ask this once. But Thomas, what happens in your mind, or what do you think about, or how does it impact when you hear the verses that Charles picks or that I pick from the listenings?
It's pretty intriguing just to like get another area of what we read, like that perspective from another person and what they took from it. It's very what's the word for it? It's very beneficial. It does help because
Okay.
sometimes, because like for instance, I think it was yesterday or the day before that, but my section and your section was literally back to back, so we kind of fed off one another, and it really just made it that much more of a better
Yeah.
understanding of the whole. So that's how
Okay.
I see
All
it.
right. Charles?
um though we're all doing, we're all coming together in the Bible studies, and we're all doing our best to try to follow God's will and God's way. When I listen to what Thomas brought up or what you brought up, if we have the same one, it's funny, but if we don't, it makes me think to myself, like, when we're all doing our listening separately, we're all, how do I say it? We have different, I can't say different interests. We're just thinking about different things at that time. Like, there
Different
are things,
focuses.
there we go. We have we all three of us have a different focus. Which isn't a bad thing in my opinion, because when we can bring those things together, um, like Thomas brought up, it is interesting. We can learn from it. It's funny.
Yeah.
It kind
Yeah.
of, it is funny. But yeah, I'm thinking we have different focuses. I know I do some of the ones, especially since I keep writing down more than two. Every time we do this, there's always more than two that I got.
Yeah, I always have more than two. It's just I don't personally I don't write them down either. For me,
I have
I'm
to.
I yeah, but that's
I'll
because
be pissed
again
if
I can look them up again, everything.
yeah, you could, yeah, no, you're good enough to just go and think and boom, boom, boom.
Yeah,
Oh, I remember this,
like,
that, and the third. No, I
like that
have
was
to
that
write it down.
statement. Okay, let me look at those words. Yeah,
I would hate to come to the Bible study and there were four of them I thought about, but I never wrote them down. I have to write them down somewhere. And this one, I got them on my phone,
yeah.
saved on my Google, so I can pull it up on another Google phone just in case. So no, I have to write these things down.
And Thomas, you be having more than two too sometimes, right?
I think I had one once,
Yeah,
but
and
majority of
that
the time it's more than two.
yeah,
I thought you were about to
and
start
so.
singing.
Well, the thing that it really stood out to me, what I noticed about our different responses and stuff with this is that there is a big difference. One, in the focusing, and two, I noticed that for all of us, including me, all of us, it does seem to make the Bible correlate more for us. Like, I noticed this with both of you. You both are realizing connections more now in these last 5 days than you did the entire times we were listening before for the last 2 years. I mean, the last two times. You know what I mean?
Not the 2 years, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, yeah. Well, for you, it's been over 2 years. I just don't know the exact time.
Well, no, listening. No, the Bible studies
No,
have
the
been
Bible stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, what were you saying, Thomas?
Ooh, totally forgot.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be like that
So,
sometimes.
yes, it do. But that's the whole thing on my side is that I'm noticing is for one, yeah, we all got different perspectives and different things we focus on. But for all of us, especially you guys, I see more of an ability to remember now, more of an ability to correlate different parts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like the example I brought up, how God talked about you were disobeying me in the wilderness. Huh? What was he talking
Yeah,
about? We got the listening today. Just like that.
exactly.
It didn't even take that many days. It didn't take weeks either.
Exactly. And that's the part that's really,
You
really
know
interesting to me.
what's gonna be interesting when we start doing the Bible studies of Isaiah, and if he referenced something from Moses, I can snap my fingers and be like, I think one of us wrote that down. I think one of us wrote this down. So one of us got the answer to this.
That's gonna be so amazing. I'm not gonna lie. I can't wait to see because I love and I seek for the day when you guys can figure out verses and relate them at the level that I can or even better. That's what I'm waiting for. And keep in mind when we start getting into Isaiah and everything, because after we're done with Ezekiel, we got three more books that are part of the history. And then we'll be going back through the prophets. So, but those three books are small, so we only got a few more like a few more chapters in Ezekiel anyways. So with all that in mind, does anybody have anything else they want to add before I close it out? All right, then I'll go ahead and close it out. Talk to y'all later.
Hey, what's reading?
Oh, yes, thank
What's
you.
listening? Sorry, listening.
You're good. You're good. Today's listening is from Exodus 17 to 29.
Got it.
All right. You got that, Charles, too?
Write it down now.
All right.
17 to 29, right?
Yep, 17 to 29. And I think I got to start saying that before we get into it, in case somebody doesn't have time to follow along with the explanations if they start listening to these later. But, anyways, have a good night, y'all.
All right.